Hey, everybody. I realized that was kind of an awkward start there. Just staring into the camera. Apparently, that's kind of a millennial move. So we've got about 5 of us. How's everybody's night? Let me know if you can hear me this time, right? Gina, hello. Thank you for coming back. We've got more Stannis the Manus talk coming up. And I actually... Thank you, Nick. Yeah, I did actually review that preview chapter from Winds, which I'm glad I did because that changed my perspective some. We might give people a few more minutes to kind of trickle in. I pinged the Discord. Actually, I think that might have been some of my issue with the sound before, that I had Discord open, and Discord and YouTube like really don't get along. And especially when you add OBS into the mix. But anyway, I'm glad to see that some of you have returned. I might summarize a little bit of what we talked about before. And as always, feel free to leave your ideas in the chat, because that's half of what I do, is just talking to chat. That's why I come here. Oh, Laltop is back. This one time, Mira interrupted me drunkenly, tapping my thighs along to imagined Iron Man pink letter for life. What? I don't know what that means, but it sounded funny. Yeah. Well, we have 5 of you here. So last time we talked about, kind of generally what the pink letter is. We talked about a little bit about Melisandre and Bloodraven as potential culprits. Bloodraven was actually a new suggestion. I hadn't heard that one before. We talked about Melisandre some. My take was sort of, she warns Jon about the knives and the danger, and so it's possible, but unlikely. I think it was Bet who was asking about the seal, because one of the more obvious pieces of evidence that leads us to believe that Ramsay didn't write the letter is that there's like a smear of wax, but not it's not sealed with like the Bolton stamp, right? So I had a theory about that that has since changed since I revisited that preview chapter. And I don't want to give it away yet because we're waiting on a few people. Okay, we got 2 more. Welcome in. Glad to have you. I assume everybody here already knows who I am, but if you don't, Amira reads. I reads. We are sort of doing not a makeup stream, but a continuation of one from a couple days ago, where the sound kind of died on us, but we're back and better than ever. So another interesting thing with the pink letter is the handwriting, that it is obviously different from Ramsay's, because we see a few of his letters, and it doesn't come with skin attached. So some people think it may have been Roose Bolton, but to me that makes even less sense, because, like, why wouldn't he have used the seal? Unless, well, if Roose was impersonating Ramsay, he would have taken this. I don't want to give it away. All right. Let's read what a wiki advice, except Bolton, Mira. Okay, so Having read Fever Dream and having read Skin Trade, I actually really like the Bolton theory. It is. I'm actually probably going to be talking about this in the Fae of Ice and Fire series, but I'll give you guys the quick rundown now. There is a folklore, tradition, history, whatever you want to call it, of people who practice witchcraft skinning supposed skin changers to like take their skin changer power. I think the fourth Anita Blake book. That is like the plot. I don't want to give it away too much, but there are like werewolves and other lycanthropes in that series, and somebody may be skinning them, which is also like the plot of Skin Trade. So whether or not it works, I don't know. But in Fever Dream, one of the characters says that vampires and werewolves are actually the same, or like what people conceive to be werewolves are actually vampires. And again, like I don't want to give it away in case anybody wants to read these. They're very good books. Well, Fever Dream has some issues. It's, a book about pre and post Civil War along the Mississippi River, written by a white guy. So do with that information what you will. Okay, so Nick Grimes says, my biggest problem with all the alternative theories for who did it is why. Like, we just have no reason to think Mance or Stannis or whoever would want to lie to Jon about being Ramsay. True. And this is where I was like originally coming from. With my, I'm gonna give you guys my two theories: the original one that I had and my updated one. But let's read what the wiki has to say about the pink letter, so we're all kind of in the same mindset. The letter is delivered to Lord Commander Jon Snow by the steward Clytus at Castle Black. It is addressed to Bastard and is sealed with pink sealing wax, which is used by House Bolton. The letter states, your false king is dead, Bastard. He and all his host were smashed in 7 days of battle. I have his magic sword. Tell his red whore. Your false king's friends are dead, their heads upon the walls of Winterfell. Come see them, Bastard. Your false king lied, and so did you. You told the world you burned the king beyond the wall. Instead, you sent him to Winterfell to steal my bride from me. I will have my bride back. If you want Mance Rayder back, come and get him. I have him in a cage for all the North to see, proof of your lies. The cage is cold, but I have made him a warm cloak from the skins of the 6 whores who came with him to Winterfell. I want my bride back. I want the false king's queen. I want his daughter and his red witch. I want this wildling princess. I want his little prince, the wildling babe. And I want my reek. Send them to me, Bastard, and I will not trouble you or your black crows. Keep them from me, and I will cut out your bastard's heart and eat it. Ramsay Bolton, true-born lord of Winterfell. That's a lot, right? So one of the main points, one of the big takeaways, is that Mance Rayder is the only person listed who's actually named by name. We have, the false king's queen, the daughter, the red witch, the princess. But there is another name, Reek. Now, Reek is not Theon's name, but Reek is Reek's name. And for those who believe that the hooded man is a manifestation of Theon's psyche, it's possible that we're dealing with, sort of a split personality disorder between Reek and Theon, in which case Reek is the other named character in the letter. Let's read on. That's all the wiki has to say. There's one more thing I wanted to look up. Okay. So, hello, UFO wifey. Let's see. Gina says, whoever wrote it, if they weren't part of the plot to kill Jon at the Wall, they were trying to at least draw him away from Castle Black, maybe to remove him from whatever magic spells are going on there. Excuse me, MJ, I didn't know what your handle is. You're doxing yourself now. Okay. Written by Little Walder, warged by Theon, who is actually Brandon, brother of Ned. I love it. No, that's fine. So now I'm having trouble remembering, and I am going to look it up because I don't want to give false information. Can anybody tell me? I know there is an issue about written in blood. I cannot remember whether Ramsay's other letters are written in blood and this one is not, or if this one is written in blood and the other ones are not, because this is going to be a very important piece of information. Yeah. Okay. Oh, the letter to Asha at Deepwood Mott was decidedly formal, written in blood, accompanied by human skin and other signatures. It is that combination of striving, overdone, Bolton to the max sociopathy that makes Ramsay Ramsay. The pink letter uses jargon, colloquialisms, mangles syntax, and seems strangely worded, almost as if the author feels compelled not to use names for everything. Okay. The ink was brown, not maester black. Okay. Yeah. All right. I don't know if we're going to get any more people, but we're already here, and I don't want to tease y'all for too long. So my original theory was that nobody in Winterfell would or should know who Mance Rayder is. They would have no reason to know unless he was caught and unless he was tortured. So if the letter came from inside Winterfell, then it is at least true that somebody discovered who he was. And a lot of people think that cite that as evidence that Mance wrote the letter himself. And I'm not necessarily counting it out. But I was thinking back to another time when a captive wrote a letter. Sansa, when she wrote the letter to Catelyn and Lysa and Robb and wrote down everything that Cersei and the small council told her to write, right? So my theory for a long time was that Mance wrote it with a knife at his throat on behalf of Ramsay. and Ramsay kind of tortured him into doing it, that we might find Mance minus a few fingers when next we see him. But that all seems to just go right out the window now that I've gone over this Winds chapter again. All right. Nick Grimes says, the objective of the letter is clear. Get Jon off the wall and move south. Why would Mance want to talk Jon this way or do this? Why would Stannis or Melisandre? Well, Tav, you're right. Mance will not be able to play the guitar nearly as well. And a part of my evidence for this was that when Ramsay, because Ramsay had been sort of acting as the Castellan of the Dreadfort. But when he reunited with Roose would have taken back the seal, right? So Ramsay would have been, without the seal, he might have had the wax. The other thing is, they're without the maester. So if Ramsay was kind of dictating what to write to Asha, it would have had clearer syntax and been more maesterly, because that was one of the comments that we just read. So for a very long time, I was in the either Ramsay wrote it or Ramsay was heavily involved, and it was kind of like Ramsay and Mance together. However, well, let's see what y'all think of that, and then we'll get on to the next thing. I like that this theory has moving parts. Feels much more Gurmy than it was Stannis before the Battle of Fire on the Lake of Ice. He accidentally melted. I like that. Yeah, I uncritically believe in like the lighthouse holes in the lake theory, and I love it. Hello, G Filmer. All right, we haven't done the big reveal yet on the new theory. I'm actually glad I took a little time. Yeah, because Ramsay doesn't just execute people. I mean, we saw what Ramsay did to Theon. And so, like, imagine if he did have Mance, that it would be, a similar thing. And at that point, Mance would have had all the information, the false king and the magic sword and the red witch. And, we have this coming together of the information. So Ramsay has the motive, Mance has the information. And wouldn't it be especially disgusting if Ramsay made Mance write the letter in his own blood? Horrifying, right? Yes, Night Lamp is phenomenal. I love Lamp. Do you guys remember the moth memes? Those are some of my favorites. Side note, the trailer for the Napoleon movie was just released, and it shows the historical inspiration for the Night Lamp theory. Scary stuff. Ooh, I'm gonna have to look that up. That's pretty cool. I mean, it sounds scary, but like cool. We're Song of Ice and Fire fans. We think scary things are cool. We've accepted that. When people say Stannis is going to win, they think Stannis will win the Iron Throne, but the Stannis winning refers specifically to Night Lamp. Yeah. I do not think Stannis is going to be king of Westeros at the end of the story, but I do really like Stannis, and I do think Stannis is going to win this particular battle because it's just so cool. I mean, like, I don't think Gurm would let him lose. Because this time he's thinking smart, and like Gurm rewards battle commanders who are strategic. And that was one of the biggest problems at the Blackwater, right? Davos is like, why did you charge headlong down the river? Like, we didn't have to do that. We like had them blockaded. We could have taken our time. But it was Stannis's brother-in-law, father-in-law, one of them. They were like, oh, you coward, we're just gonna, and there went that. But only way Stannis wins is if he gets Sir 20 of House Goodman and laser eyes all of his enemies. Yeah. I do believe he'll beat the Freys. I don't know about him taking Winterfell. Now, if somebody else intercedes, that could be. Stannis seems like kind of like just he's got like a little rain cloud over his head. I think it was Alt Swift X who was like, what has Stannis ever gotten for being smart when they're talking about Mace Tyrell? Like you see somebody as mostly ethical as Stannis and as thoughtful as Stannis, and he's just can't catch a break. Although I think some of that might be the kinslaying. I think killing Renly was wrong. Yeah, we love Swifty. Swifty's fantastic. Oh, also, while we're talking about other YouTubers, Kevin Pendragon dropped a new video like 7 hours ago. Definitely when we're wrapped here, y'all should go check that out. Kevin Pendragon is a phenomenal YouTuber, phenomenal theorist, phenomenal person. And if you're not already subscribed to his channel, I highly recommend that you do that. Okay. Nick Grimes says, very possible. I'm not familiar with Estonian history. I'm just assuming that Napoleon history would be more likely known to Germ. Yes. Although, I mean, if it's science related, I assume he doesn't know it. If it's European history, I'm like, he probably might know that. All right. Like Werewolf John, who convinces Rickon to give up both Blackfire and Dark Sister, which we all know Rickon has both of. Yeah, of course. I do kind of like the Dark Sisters and Bloodraven's Cave theory. I could see it. Or hidden somewhere in Castle Black. Right? Because, I mean, like, the Wormways are full of crap. Like, I mean, Sam was down there for days reading books. So that would be interesting. All right. So we've talked about the ink. We've talked about the wax. We've talked about the names. We've talked about the syntax. We've talked about the signature. We've talked about motives. Ooh, Mira gets Dark Sister. Someone else gets Blackfire. Oh, you mean Mira Reed, like the real Mira. I was like, oh, that would be fun. I don't know how to use a sword, but I could learn. No, it's okay. So before we get into the big reveal, if anybody else has theories they want to get out, I am here to entertain them. Going once, going twice. I can't remember if there's a delay in here. G Filmer says, I got a knockoff plastic version of Hot D Dark Sister. Oh yeah, Damon has it. We have seen Dark Sister. You brought up blood ink as something of interest for the first time I've seen, and it's actually nuts, the implications. Right. I think Blackfire may be getting destroyed with Fagon once Dany sees him on her chair. Yeah. So I absolutely believe Dany will burn down King's Landing because she's mad at Fagon. Because she burns her enemies, fire and blood. And Fagon's her enemy. Tyrion. This is all Tyrion's fault. All right. I think we have everybody we're going to have. I think we have all the comments we're going to get. So there are a lot of interesting things that happen in that preview chapter. We see Stannis signing his contract with the Iron Bank in blood because his ink is ruined. Right away. And specifically, it says that he scratched his handwriting, right? And that scratched is also, I believe, the adjective used to describe the handwriting in the pink letter. Now, that is not definitive by any means, but something to think about. Stannis also has the Bolton maester with him. The Bolton maester, who would know Reek, and that Reek is Theon, right? And Stannis has just met with the Black Brothers, who is it Tycho the one from the Iron Bank? So he's just gotten, some of the scoop. So Stannis actually has a lot more information than I was previously giving him credit for. But also, for that entire chapter, Theon is privy to all of Stannis's meetings because the tower doesn't have a dungeon. So that's just where he is. And at the beginning of the chapter, we see Theon kind of coming to, right? And doesn't remember where he is. Tycho no face has. I like that. Isn't Theon in the attic of the tower? He's in whatever room Stannis is conducting meetings in and signing documents with the Iron Bank. I think you all may be seeing where I'm going here. Here, let's pull up the chapter. I apologize. It's taking a minute. Stannis just has a desk. Theon perfectly sees his mortgage payments. Yeah, I think we talked about that last time. Tycho Nestoris shows up after Stannis has been marching for over a month, and his men are cannibalizing each other, and they've eaten their horses, and everybody's dying. And Tycho Nestoris rocks up. He's like, "Hello, I would like to contact you about your loan's extended warranty." What? No, honestly, one of my favorite things. Okay. The king's voice was choked with anger. "You are a worse pirate than Salador's son." Theon Greyjoy opened his eyes. His shoulders were on fire, and he could not move his hands. For half a heartbeat, he feared he was back in his old cell under the Dreadfort, that the jumble of memories inside his head was no more than the residue of some fever dream. Fever dream. I was asleep, he realized. That, or passed out from the pain. He tried to move. He swung from side to side, his back scraping against stone. He was hanging from a wall inside a tower, his wrists chained to a pair of rusted iron rings. The air reeked of burning peat. The floor was hard-packed dirt. Wooden steps spiraled up inside the walls to the roof. He saw no windows. The tower was dank, dark, and comfortless, its only furnishings a high-back chair and a scarred table resting on 3 trestles. Yeah. So Theon is literally hanging from the wall, his feet dangling 6 feet off the floor. But we don't know how long he's been tied to the wall, right? And he's being kept in the room where Stannis, is conducting all of his business. So yeah, thus dictating his story. This is perfect. The maester wrote it, not Theon. Ink is frozen. They use blood. Precisely. So the only thing is, if it's Theon and the maester, how do they know about Mance Rayder? Because Theon knows that the women are, not exactly who they say they are, but I don't believe that the Spearwives give away Mance's identity. Actually, while we're here, maybe this is a very stupid question that I probably should have looked up myself, but while I have you all here, I assumed that the hooded man was Mance when I read the book. Why isn't it Mance? Is Mance like playing, is Abel playing music at that time? Like, we know that Mance is otherwise occupied? Because, like, to me, that's like the most obvious, I mean, I do like the theory that the hooded man is a manifestation of, like, Theon's psyche. But does anybody know? That would be an interesting thing to look into, right? All right, let's see. All he had done, all he had suffered, Moat Cailin and Barrowton and Winterfell, Abel and his washerwomen is how Theon refers to them. Crowfoot and his umbers, the trek through the snows. Your grace, a second voice said softly, pardon, but your ink has frozen. The Bravasi, Theon knew. What was his name? Tycho something, perhaps a bit of heat. I know a quicker way. Stannis drew his dagger. For an instant, Theon thought that he meant to stab the banker. The king laid the blade of the knife against the ball of his left thumb and slashed. There, I will sign in my own blood that ought to make your masters happy. If it please your grace, it will please the Iron Throne. It will please the Iron Bank. Oh, wow. I can read. Mira reads. Okay. You will not depart today. Lord Bolton may be on us soon. I will not have you caught up in the fighting. That would be my preference as well. The Bravasi slipped the roll of parchment inside a wooden tube. I hope to have the honor of calling on your grace again when you are seated on your iron throne. Mira reads. I think that hack Alt-Shift-X has a hooded man video. Yeah. Yeah, MJ, I actually watched it yesterday because I was doing Mira things and cleaning my house and listening to Alt-Shift-X, as you do. Mance was not discussed in Alt-Shift-X's video. And Alt-Shift-X is a very intelligent and thorough person, and so if Mance is not a suspect, like, there must be. Mance was mentioned once in Alt-Shift-X's video? No, because he talks about the Glover, he talks about Harwin, he talks about the one with the bones. Ned's bones are in Marine. Okay, that's actually one of my favorite Glidus quotes. And what would that accomplish? Okay, linked it above for anyone curious. MJ, you don't need to link Alt-Shift-X videos. We've all seen them. Mance is killing the victims in Winterfell, but he doesn't mention it in relation to the hooded man's identity. Yeah. Yeah, so okay. So who is it? Well, anyway, the one who's escorting Ned's bones. And then Alt Shift X lands on the Theon kind of split personality. But yeah, another thing for another day. Have we talked about the possibility of it being Tycho Nestorius? I'm not bullying you. I mean, if you want to link Kevin Pendragon, please do. Alt Shift X is like the biggest Song of Ice and Fire YouTuber. Like, yeah, Tycho underrated. Tycho wanted to settle some debts. Yeah. So, but Tycho just drew up all those documents with Jon, right? So what would he stand to gain in getting Jon killed or convincing Jon to leave the wall? Yeah, Tycho wrote the pink letter, but oh yeah, Gina, that's a good point. The Iron Bank is tired of waiting for someone in Westeros to pay up after the war is won. So he's like, let's move this along, people. Oh, thank you, Jacob. Jacob said, thank you for your content. Really enjoy your perspective. Keep it up. Thank you. Okay, Tycho can't be in the prologue because he's in the Theon chapter. Come on, Laltov. I know we're being silly, but you can do better than that. All right. Stannis says to Tycho, you hope to have your gold, you mean. Save your pleasantries. It is coin I need from Bravos, not empty courtesy. Okay. So Tycho leaves. A knight comes in. Sire, he announced, the maester is without, and Lord Arnoff sends word that he would be most pleased to break his fast with you. The son as well, and the grandsons. Okay. Ooh, here we go. Just now, the turncloak is more use to me alive. He has knowledge we may need. Bring in the maester. The king plucked a parchment off the table and squinted over it. A letter, Theon knew. Its broken seal was black wax, hard and shiny. I know what that says, he thought, giggling. I know what that says? How does Theon know what that says? Stannis looked up. The turncloak stirs. Theon, my name is Theon. He had to remember his name. I know your name. I know what you did. I saved her. And then Theon remembers jumping off the wall. We flew. Stannis snorted. You fell. Umber saved her. If Moore's crow food and his men had not been outside the castle, Bolton would have had the both of you back in moments. Crow food, Theon remembered. Turncloak and Kinslayer, Crowfood calls him. Okay, we have Arya Winterfell. Crowfood is grilling her. Theon twisted in his chains and blinked down at the king. Crowfood found us, yes. He sent us here to you, but it was me who saved her. Ask her yourself. She would tell him. You saved me, Jane had whispered as he was carrying her through the snow. She was pale with pain, but she had brushed one hand across his cheek and smiled. I saved Lady Arya, Theon whispered back at her. And then, all at once, Moore's spears were all around them. Is this my thanks? He asked Stannis, kicking feebly against the wall. His shoulders were in agony. His own weight was tearing them from their sockets. How long had he been hanging there? Was it still night outside? The tower was windowless. He had no way to know. So, I mean, how long can one person actually hang from a wall before their arms actually get ripped off, right? I mean, I don't know, but it can't have been that long. Theon is saying, how long had he been hanging here? Was it still night outside? So I think Theon's thinking it's just been a couple of hours, right? And Theon knows what the letter says. Unchain me and I will serve you. As you served Roose Bolton and Robb Stark, Stannis snorted. I think not. We have a warmer end in mind for you, Turncloak, but not until we're done with you. He means to kill me. The thought was queerly comforting. Death did not frighten Theon Greyjoy. Death would mean an end to pain. Be done with me, then, he urged the king. Take off my head off, whoever transcribed this, and stick it on a spear. I slew Lord Eddard's sons. I ought to die, but do it quick. He is coming. Who is coming? Bolton? Lord Ramsay, Theon hissed. The son, not the father. You must not let him take me. Roose is safe within the walls of Winterfell with his fat new wife. Ramsay is coming. Ramsay Snow, you mean, the bastard. Never call him that. Spittle sprayed from Theon's lips. Ramsay Bolton, not Ramsay Snow. Never Snow. Never. You have to remember his name or he will hurt you. Okay. God, the damn half-released book. What am I doing? I feel like I dismissed this bit via show knowledge of him just falling and running off. Yeah. Okay, he's welcome to try whatever name he goes by. The door opened with a gust of cold black wind and a swirl of snow. The Knight of the Moths had returned with the maester the king had sent for, his gray robes concealed beneath a heavy bearskin pelt. Behind them came two other knights, each carrying a raven in a cage. One was the man who'd been with Asha when the banker delivered him to her, a burly man with a winged pig on his surcoat. The other man was taller, broad-shouldered, and brawny. The big man's breastplate was silvered steel, inlaid with Niello? Mm-hmm. All right. The maester sank to his knees. He was red-haired and round-shouldered, with close-set eyes that kept flicking toward Theon hanging on the wall. Your Grace, how may I be of service? Stannis did not reply at once. He studied the man before him, his brow furrowed. Get up. The maester rose. You are maester at the Dreadfort. How is it you are here with us? Lord Arnulf brought me to tend to his wounded. To his wounded or his ravens? Both, your grace. Both. Stannis snapped the word out. A maester's raven flies to one place, and one place only. Is that correct? The maester mopped sweat from his brow with his sleeve. He's nervous. He's sweating. He doesn't want to answer. He didn't mention the ravens. He wasn't going to mention the ravens until Stannis brought it up. He looks at Theon. Brah. Not entirely, your grace. Most, yes. Some few can be taught to fly between two castles. Such birds are greatly prized. And once in a very great while, we find a raven who can learn the names of 3 or 4 or 5 castles and fly to each upon command. Birds as clever as that come along only once in 100 years. Stannis gestured at the black birds in the cages. These two are not so clever, I presume. No, your grace. Would that it were so. Tell me then, where are these two trained to fly? Maester Tybalt did not answer. Tybalt, a redhead. Theon Greyjoy kicked his feet feebly and laughed under his breath. Caught. Answer me. If we were to loose these birds, would they return to the Dreadfort? The king leaned forward. Or might they fly for Winterfell instead? Maester Tybalt pissed his robes. Theon could not see the dark stain spreading from where he hung, but the smell of piss was sharp and strong. Maester Tybalt has lost his tongue, Stannis observed to his knights. Godry, how many cages did you find? 3, your grace, said the big knight in the silvered breastplate. 1 was empty. Your grace, my order is sworn to serve. I know all about your vows. What I want to know is what was in the letter that you sent to Winterfell. Did you perchance tell Lord Bolton where to find us? Sire, round-shouldered Tybalt drew himself up proudly. The rules of my order forbid me to divulge the contents of Lord Arnulf's letters. That's not an answer. That's just a fact. He's implying that he sent a letter for Lord Arnulf. But, could just because he's hiding things. I know all about your vows. What I want to know is what was in the letter that you sent to Winterfell. Did you perchance tell Lord Bolton where to find us? Sire. Oh no, we already read that part. Your vows are stronger than your bladder, it would seem. Your grace must understand. Must I? The king shrugged. If you say so. You are a man of learning, after all. I had a maester on Dragonstone who was almost a father to me. I have great respect for your order and its vows. How many eyes does a maester need to read a letter? Asked Stannis. 1 should suffice, I'd think. I would not wish to leave you unable to fulfill your duties to your lord. Roose Bolton's men may well be on their way to attack us even now, however. So you must understand if I skimp on certain courtesies. I will ask you once again. What was in the message you sent to Winterfell? The maester quivered. A map, your grace. The king leaned back in his chair. Get him out of here. Leave the ravens. A vein was throbbing in his neck. Confine the grey wretch to one of the huts until I decide what is to be done with him. Okay, so he does answer. Stannis glowered up at Theon where he hung. You are not the only turncloak here, it would seem. Would that all the lords in the 7 kingdoms had but a single neck. He turned to his knight. Sir Richard, whilst I am breaking fast with Lord Arnulf, you are to disarm his men and take them into custody. Most will be asleep. Do them no harm unless they resist. It may be they did not know. Question some upon that point, but sweetly. If they had no knowledge of this treachery, they shall have the chance to prove their loyalty. Send in Justin Massey. Another knight, Theon knew when Massey entered. This one was fair, with a neatly trimmed blonde beard and thick, straight hair, blah, blah, blah. We know Justin Massey. Okay, you will escort the Bravasi banker back to the wall. Choose 6 good men and take 12 horses. To ride or eat. I really like Justin Massey. I really hope that we're not going to see that marriage, but it would be great if Justin Massey married Asha. I think he genuinely likes her. Okay, G Filmer says Justin is a player, but you think Asha cares? Or she'd probably be the one to be able to get him to. I don't know. I just like it. If there is to be a battle, my place is here with you. Your place is where I say it is. I have 500 swords as good as you or better, but you have a pleasing manner and a glib tongue, and those will be of more use to me at Bravos than here. The Iron Bank has opened its coffers to me. You will collect their coin and hire ships and sell swords. A company of good repute if you can find one. The Golden Company would be my first choice if they are not already under contract. Seek for them in the disputed lands if need be, but first hire as many swords as you can find in Bravos and send them to me by way of Eastwatch. Archers as well, we need more bows. Sir Justin's hair had fallen down across one eye. He pushed it back and said, "The captains of the free companies will join a lord more readily than a mere knight, your grace. I hold neither lands nor title. Why should they sell their swords to me?" "Go to them with both fists full of gold dragons," the king said in an acid tone. "That should prove persuasive. 20,000 men should suffice. Do not return with fewer." "Sire, might I speak freely?" "So long as you speak quickly." "Your grace should go to Bravos with the banker." "Is that your counsel, that I should flee?" The king's face darkened. "That was your counsel on the Blackwater as well, as I recall. When the battle turned against us, I let you and Hort chivvy me back to Dragonstone like a whipped cur." "The day was lost, your grace." "Aye, that was what you said. The day is lost, sire. Fall back now, and you may fight again." "And now you would have me scamper off across the narrow sea to raise an army, aye, as Bittersteel did after the Battle of the Redgrass Field, where Daemon Blackfire fell." "Do not prate me of history, sir. Daemon Blackfire was a blah, blah, blah. When he fled, he swore he would return to place the sun. Oh, Bittersteel was a bastard. That boy Viserys Targaryen spoke of return as well. He slipped through my fingers at Dragonstone, only to spend his life wheedling after sellswords. The beggar king, they called him in the free cities. Well, I do not beg, nor will I flee again. I am Robert's heir, the rightful king of Westeros. Go with the banker, and do as I have bid." "As you command," Sir Justin said. "It may be that we shall lose this battle," the king said grimly. "In Bravos, you may hear that I am dead. It may even be true. You shall find my sellswords nonetheless." The knight hesitated. "Your grace, if you are dead, you will avenge my death and seat my daughter on the Iron Throne, or die in the attempt." "Oh, and take the Stark girl with you. Deliver her to Lord Commander Snow on your way to Eastwatch." Stannis tapped the parchment that lay before him. "A true king pays his debts." Pay it, aye, thought Theon. Pay it with false coin. Jon Snow would see through the impostor at once. Lord Stark's sullen bastard had known Jane Poole, and he'd always been fond of his little half-sister Arya. All right, I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but I think we got all the parts that I was looking for. Let's see what I've missed while I was reading. Fire White Glendon Ball. I kind of like that. Okay. They never mention where maesters are from, but they obviously have the same complications, as Night's Watch brothers. So any maester could have any allegiance. Yeah. But sometimes we can tell, even by a first name, where someone is from. And we can tell sometimes the hair is a giveaway. I mean, Grim really likes redheads. But so, for example, I believe Maester Lewin is Dornish. Because, like, who's the other Lewin we know about? It was Lewin Martell, right? What was the Maester's name? It sounded Western. Like either the Reach or the Westerlands. Tybalt. Redhead named Tybalt. Are there any redheaded Lannisters? Are they all golden haired? Although, the Black Widow from Dunk and Egg was a redhead. Yeah. So, yeah, the Bolton Maester, I believe, is from the Westerlands. Although, I mean, we have no reason to believe that he's, loyal to the Lannisters necessarily. Okay. Asha's one true love is Carl the Maid. True. Interesting that his first choice is the Golden Company. That I think makes sense, because Stannis is very much about, you know, what is right and what is proper and, like, honoring his word and doing what he says he's gonna do. And the Golden Company, like, never breaks a contract. So I think that's more where he's going, but it is interesting that he, like, shits on Bittersteel and then is like, "Hire the Golden Company," or the other way around. But, Stannis is also the kind of person who's like, "Bittersteel is dead, and the people running it are reputable, so, like, I'm not gonna, like, hold this new guy accountable for what Bittersteel did," you know? I I really like I really like Stannis. Yes, Simon Holmes, thank you. Red Widow, Rohan Weber. I think that yes, Black Widow, like, I think that was kind of the implication that, like, she kills her husbands like a Black Widow. Um, but, like, wasn't her sigil a spider as well? I could just be making things up. Sometimes I make things up. Rohan Weber, known as Weber. I just got that. Okay. Yeah, we got that at the same time. I'm glad that was both of us. Let's see. Okay. Yep. Lady of Coldmoat, alias the Red Widow. Head of House Weber. House Weber. Yeah, the spider. That's amazing. I think there was a thing where one of the Duncan Egg books is them saving Rohan from something nasty. Something with her Lannister husband being murdered. Lannister husband. No, I thought it was like Rohan Weber's daughter is like Tywin's grandmother or something. Mother of Pycelle. That could be. That'd be interesting. Her Lannister husband is her. Hold on. Let's learn. We're learning things today. We'll come back to pink letter stuff in a minute. We're talking about like Rohan Weber is like way more interesting than I thought. Tywin's grandfather. I'm so confused. We're just gonna keep going. Okay. She did have several suitors. Among them were Clayton Caswell and Simon Laygood, both rather persistent, and Sir Gerald Lannister, who sent her flattering letters from Casterly Rock, but whom Rohan did not believe to be willing to leave the Westerlands and his position at his brother's seat. Fifth marriage. Lady Rohan continued to rule Coldmoat in 211 AC, though she had only until the new moon to marry in order to keep her seat. Yeah, because she marries Sir Eustace. Da-da-da. Yeah, Rohan owned a courser with some Dornish sandsteed ancestry called Flame, which she tried to gift to Sir Duncan. And then he like took some of her hair instead, which was a little creepy. Rohan later married Gerald Lannister and had 4 sons with him, twins Tywald, Tion, Titus, and Jason. Okay. So she is Tywin's grandmother. So I guess Eustace didn't live very long after her. Lady Rohan disappeared under mysterious circumstances in 230 AC, less than a year after giving birth to Jason. To spite the widowed Lord Gerald, Lady Ellen Rain named her first daughter Rohan Tarbeck after Rohan Weber, according to a semi-canon source. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. I'm glad we're learning. Gary and Lannister, who might have killed his brother and niece, who was a supporter of Egg at the Council of 233. Yeah. AKA 100 years ago, Kevin. Okay. Yeah, Weber equals old Nan theory, the knitting, click, click, click. Would be around Aemon's age, current time. Yeah. It's possible. It's possible. Yeah, because Rohan Weber would be younger than Shira Seastar. So Kirsty, it was Ellen Rain naming her daughter Rohan that was out of spite. Rohan's children were Tywald, Tion, Titus, and Jason. Although Jason is kind of like a weird addition. Okay. Kong Ming says Theon wrote the pink letter. Mance is illiterate, so would have depended on Theon to dictate to. That's why Theon is so fearful in his last chapter. Also, in his Winds chapter, he quotes the letter verbatim. He wants his bride back. He wants his reek. So, Kirsty, yes, Ellen Rain did do that on purpose. Thank you, Connie. I knew I was missing something. So we actually, I don't know if you were here for it, we read a pretty decent chunk of the preview chapter, but let's see. The son, not the father. Yeah. Let's keep going. And then Justin asks to marry Asha. Your understanding is not required, only your obedience. Be on your way. This time, when the knight took his leave, the world beyond the door seemed more white than black. Stannis paced the floor. The tower was a small one, dark and cramped. A few steps brought the king around to Theon. How many men does Bolton have at Winterfell? 5,000. 6. More. He gave the king a ghastly grin, all shattered teeth and splinters. More than you. How many of those is he like to send against us? No more than half. That was a guess, admittedly, but it felt right to him. Roose Bolton was not a man to blunder blindly out into the snow, map or no. He would hold his main strength in reserve, keep his best men with him, trust in Winterfell's massive double walls. The castle is too crowded. Wyman Manderley, Lord Too Fat to Sit a Horse, and the phrase... The North remembers the Red Wedding, Lady Hornwood's fingers, the sack of Winterfell, Deepwood Motte, and Torrhen Square. They remember all of it. Bran and Rickon, they were only Miller's boys. Frey and Manderley will never combine their strengths. They will come for you, but separately. Lord Ramsay will not be far behind them. He wants his bride back. He wants his reek. Theon's laugh was half a titter, half a whimper. Lord Ramsay is the one your grace should fear. I defeated your Uncle Victarion and his Iron Fleet. Tell me, Turncloak, what battles has the bastard of Bolton ever won that I should fear him? You must not call him that. A wave of pain washed over Theon Greyjoy. He closed his eyes and grimaced. When he opened them again, he said, You do not know him. No more than he knows me. Knows me, cried one of the ravens the maester had left behind. It flapped its big black wings against the bars of its cage. Knows, it cried again. Stop that noise. Behind him, the door opened. The Karstarks had arrived. Bent and twisted. And stuff about the Karstarks. Yeah, there's so much here, but those were all the pieces I identified. So I'm leaning more and more toward Theon. Or Theon plus the Maester. Because at that point we have the knowledge, we have the wording. Yeah. I mean, it's possible that Mance gave Theon instructions to send a letter, but I don't think so. Because remember at the beginning, Theon looks at the table and he says, I know what's in that letter. And the letter had been sealed with black wax. So, and Theon says, I know what's in that letter. Theon knows what's in a letter from Castle Black. Yeah, let's see. There's theories that pink letter contains a coded message. Only person to use coded letters elsewhere is Roose. I think to know what Roose would hope to gain from the pink letter, though. Catelyn and Lysa also use a cipher. So, like we talked about last time, Preston Jacobs' theory is that it was a cipher from Mance to why did I just forget his name? Tormund. But this is all building on the theory that like Tormund is actually Oswald Went. And like we're not doing that today. I think it is highly suspicious that in this chapter we have You May Hear That I Am Dead, using blood for ink, the missing raven, Theon saying, I know what's in that letter. And Theon has not been on the wall for that long. Because he says, like, is it still nighttime or is it nighttime? Let's see. Mance is the only one to know about the wildling babe, the only one who would care. But remember, okay, so we have coming in and out Tycho Nestorius. The Bolton Maester, like, basically just arrived. Or no, I mean, he could have been there for a little bit. So anybody who had come from Castle Black would know about the princess and the baby and Shireen and, well, I mean, anybody in the Bolton camp would know about Stannis' wife and daughter, but the people who know that Mance is Mance are Jon, Melisandre, Mance, and the Spearwives. and anybody else, at Castle Black who, might have found out. People talk. So hypothetically, I mean, Jon has sworn some of the former wildlings into the Night's Watch, and we have several brothers of the Night's Watch who have escorted Tygonosaurus, right? So it's possible, that at Stannis's camp, we have kind of this, I don't want to say conflagration, but, a collection of characters who have all of the information in one place. We have Theon, we have the Maester, we have Tygonosaurus and or the Black Brothers who came with him, right? And it's possible that the Bolton Maester consulted Theon to get the wording, or do you think it could have been the Arnulf Karstark? And like the Maester did it on his behalf? Because remember, Jon just married Alice Karstark off to the Magnar, right? To the Thenn. Arnulf Karstark has one of the best motives for wanting Jon dead. And that's what Theon says, I know what's in the letter. I'm guessing what's in the letter is Alice Karstark is married to the Thenn. We might have done it. I love this. I love this so much. Thank you all for hanging out with me. This is one of my favorite things to do. Okay. Kirsty says, just quickly, what happens when Silent Sisters take the dead? Do they bleed the bodies, flay them, and then send the bones? I think it depends. Like, from what I've gathered, they're like morticians. So if you can like embalm the body and like do the funeral right away, I think they will do that. But for long travel, it sounds like they do bones. Apparently out in Marine, they use beetles. But I don't think it's ever said. MJ says, I thought Preston's theory was based on the idea that Mance wanted to incite Tormund to lead a rebellion at the Wall. Nothing about Oswald went. Well, see, MJ, like, yes. However, you have to watch the whole series because in that chapter with Jon, Tormund says, I can't read. But then he says something black as Maester's ink. So Preston's theory is that Mance is Rhaegar, Tormund is Oswald Went, and Qhorin Halfhand is the White Bull. The three from the Tower of Joy. Or Arthur Dayne. Who's Arthur Dayne? I don't remember. Or Mance is Arthur Dayne? No, Mance is Rhaegar? I can't remember. But Oswald Went is a redhead, presumably, and Tormund Giantsbane is a redhead, and there's no explanation for why he's literate or why he'd be lying about it. And Mance is Rhaegar, so obviously Tormund is Oswald Went. I'm butchering that theory. I'm sorry, Preston, if you ever watch it. And I mean, honestly, like Preston identifies a lot of really good stuff, and there are some parallels. Random Internet Guy has a really good video where he breaks down the math of like why Mance can't be Rhaegar. And I think Gerald Hightower would be way too old to be Qhorin Halfhand, but that's the theory. Okay. Bet says, probably silly thought. Whoops. Hooded man might be Benjen hiding in the crypts to be the Stark. Ben would know Mance. What? I mean, that would be cool. Although I think the pact has been broken. I think we're going to see what happens when there's no Stark in Winterfell. But also, you guys, my take on there must always be a Stark in Winterfell is more about whenever there's a threat to the north, the Stark in Winterfell is called upon. Like the Night King, the Night's King. I apologize for that. I've never said anything so ridiculous in my life. The Night's King, the one who married another and sacrificed his children and declared himself king of the wall. The king beyond the wall and the Stark in Winterfell teamed up, right, to deal with that. So they say that to Robb when they're leaving, like Ned and Catelyn, there must be a Stark in Winterfell. But then Osha says, your brother's marching the wrong way. So to me, it's not so much that, like, I mean, it could be a magic thing. I mean, we see that a lot in fantasy. But I think it's also, there must always be a northern leader of good conscience who will look after the north. Because what happened when Robb left? You know, the Ironborn swooped in. And you know, Bran and Rickon were too little to deal with it. I mean, yes, they were technically Starks in Winterfell, but you know, when you think of this Stark, you think of like Cregan Stark. You know. Okay. He took that tunnel from beyond the wall, 300 miles to Winterfell. Like I mean, Laltov. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I am obsessed with fairy tunnels and hills and mounds. Tycho has Black brothers with him. Yes, he does. He has an escort from Castle Black. MJ says, how would Maester Tybalt and Theon coordinate? The Maester knew who he was. The Maester's looking nervously at him when he walks in. And Theon goes, I know what's in the letter. And the crows are in there. So, you know, Stannis can't be in the room all the time, right? He has to leave sometime. So my thought is, Maester sneaks in and, you know, coordinates with Theon real quick. Because, you know, Theon's nailed to the wall. And that's why, like, Theon's laughing about it because he doesn't care about anything anymore. Theon is like, kill me, please do. I don't care. Okay. Conming says, I am prejudiced against Karstarks, so I immediately accept it. Okay. Thank you, Laltov. You got a super chat. Thank you. My second ever super chat. Okay. Oh, goodness. George is going to have to rewrite his plot twist. Okay, Bet asks, how would Theon know about the marriage? So at the very beginning of the chapter, Stannis is looking at a letter that had a black wax seal. And Theon goes, I know what's in the letter. So what I think is when he was down from the wall, when he was helping the maester, he read the letter, or the maester read the letter, and he knows that the letter is being sent, that the pink letter is being sent because of what came in on the black letter. We'll call it the black letter. Yeah, we can scroll back up and see. I think I saw Taco in the chat. Hi, Taco. Okay. Your Grace, pardon, something. Yeah, so Theon's only been hanging from the wall for a couple of hours. Okay, here it is. Just now the turncloak is more use to me alive. He has knowledge we may need. Bring in the maester. The king plucked a parchment off the table and squinted over it. A letter Theon knew. Its broken seal was black wax, hard and shiny. I know what that says, he thought, giggling. I mean, Castle Black presumably isn't the only place that uses black wax. The Karstarks are black with a white sunburst, right? Yeah. I mean, presumably the Dondarrions would use black wax too, but there's an open letter on the table from Castle Black, and Theon says, I know what's in it. What other news would they be receiving from Castle Black other than Alice Karstark is married? Okay. MJ says, I've never seen Preston support that theory. MJ, like, I promise. I promise. Go watch the videos. I promise. Okay. John put Arnoff's heir Kragan in the ice cells and still has him in some dungeon too. Yeah, Simon, thank you. That's a good point. RIG was the man's isn't Arthur. Okay, I knew it was one of them. So the first video I wanted to do, and the video I still have not done, is actually a quote from Swifty and Gligar. They said during a live stream, some people think Mance is Rhaegar, and other people think Mance is Arthur, and they're both Jon's dad. And I was going to do a whole video about that and Oedipus, and we'll do it one day. One day. Taco says, I just got here. Have we talked about how Tyrek Lannister wrote the pink letter? Yes. That's why the handwriting is so messy, because it was written by a horse. Preston raised suspicion that Tormund can't read because of the Maester Quill thing, but that doesn't mean Kingsguard be on the wall. So what it is in the same paragraph, Tormund says, I can't read that squiggly squiggle, but then he says, black is Maester's ink. To me, that doesn't mean Tormund can read. But it is interesting that he knows about Maesters. Here's another thing. A lot of theories are built upon the use of the word crow. And there are so many people who say, oh, crow is only used in the north. Crow is only used beyond the wall to describe the Black brothers. But I'm here to tell you that is not correct. In Clash of Kings, there is an Arya chapter before Yoren dies. It's the one where I think the gold cloaks are coming after Gendry, and Arya thinks they're coming for her. They call Yoren a crow. And this is in the Riverlands. So either that gold cloak was a wildling as a child, or it's more common usage throughout Westeros. So any theory that is built upon the idea that crow is only used beyond the wall is wrong. All right. Aaron says, all things are possible with time-traveling Bran. Bran is Stoneheart. Yeah, the whole timing of events is just a mess. Theon sent pink letter thinking he'd get Jon to come help, but black letter is news of Jon's death. Pink letter having gotten Jon killed. Why would Stannis let Tybalt go around unsupervised in his tower? I guess he was letting him send letters to Winterfell previously, before Theon escaped Winterfell. No, Tybalt arrived after Theon did. I'm alleging that Tybalt like snuck in real quick. Like he did a sneaky. Hi, Jackie. Taco says, in all honesty, no theory has convinced me, not Wyman, not Barbary Dustin. But there's no way it's Ramsay. Yeah, so Taco, I don't think you were here from it. We read a good bit of the Theon wins chapter. So for anybody who wasn't here earlier, I can do like a real rapid summary. The pink letter was written in like brown. That looks the same as when Stannis signs in blood because his ink is like frozen and ruined. Because he says there's no time. There's no time to thaw the ink. And he signs in blood. Theon uses the exact wording in the letter. He wants his bride back. He wants his reek. And at the end, it's signed like Lord Ramsay Bolton of Winterfell or something, but not with all the other titles and stuff Ramsay normally signs with, and with no skin attached. So the things that Theon would have been focused on writing the letter, Lord Ramsay, I want my bride, I want my reek. It's all kind of perfect stormy in there, and there's a weird interaction. Shablez, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Captain Time is here. Hi, Captain Time. I'm so happy you're here. MJ, who are you arguing with? Alice tells Jon that Arnulf Karstark is planning to backstab Stannis. Presumably that's what's in the letter. No way Theon would think he'd know what's in the letter, though. No, I'm alleging that Theon read the letter. Like, because Theon has only been chained to the wall for like a few hours. So maybe he got caught looking at papers and that's why he's chained to the wall and he doesn't remember. So, okay. So here are my three theories. It was Theon in a fugue state, because I think he might have split personality and maybe he was killing people in Winterfell and like not remembering it. Or it was the Karstark maester and it's in response to the news about Alice. And both of those make sense. Mance, I'm sure, told Tormund a lot. Okay. Yeah, Captain Time, if you need to sleep, by all means. Oh, thank you, Taco. It was good to have you. Yeah. So this Tybalt person that we're talking about is the Bolton maester that Stannis has. And there's a whole weird thing about a missing raven. And Stannis is like, where did the raven go? And he says, he's like, I can't answer. And he says, I can't tell you what's in Lord Arnulf's letters. So you don't have time to thaw the ink. You've got like 5 minutes to dash something off, because you snuck in. So you write it in blood. You might have even written it in Reek's blood. And that's why the pink wax is smeared. It was somebody doing it in a hurry. Oh, yeah, Jackie, it's all good. There was somebody else commenting, about, about Tybalt. I love that all my friends are stopping by. Yeah, yeah, so, Jackie, we're alleging it's somebody around Theon and somebody around Stannis' camp. It would have required knowledge for multiple people. But around Stannis' camp, we have a group that collectively would have had the knowledge. The maester knows how to use the ravens. Theon knows, some of the language that Ramsay would use. Like if they want to know what's been happening, because the Bolton maester didn't go to Winterfell, so they would have needed at least Theon's information to fill them in on what happened there. And there's Tycho Nestorius and the escort that came with him from Castle Black. I probably missed it, but why do you think Marsh didn't rewrite a letter and repurpose the wax? Okay, but like, I can't tell if this is serious. So, Bowen Marsh didn't know about Mance. Bowen Marsh certainly wouldn't have known about Reek. Some of the other stuff is possible, but I mean, Bowen Marsh certainly had a motive, but I can't imagine him writing a letter in blood. I think he was more waiting for the moment when Jon did something so egregious that he could mutiny and feel okay about it. Because the Lord Commander abandoning his post to march south is one of the few things you can mutiny for and nobody can get mad at you. Right? Like, Bowen Marsh isn't my favorite, but he's also like, he's committed to the watch. And he doesn't seem that complicated. He's just always harping about like, we need food, we need supplies, we don't want to like throw our men at this problem because like we don't want a whole bunch of them to die for nothing. And yeah. So Jackie says, would the maester know about Mance? So that was kind of the one piece of information we were missing. But if we have a small conspiracy, we have all the information there, and there are just so many clues. Because Stannis says, if you may hear that I am dead. And I think that's why a lot of people think Stannis wrote the letter. But I think that may just be more of a clue. I think all the things that Stannis is doing are clues about what other people have done. It's like we see Stannis signing in his blood. Stannis says, you may hear that I am dead. But he also says, I may actually be dead. And then you'll avenge me and put my daughter on the... What is going on? Anyway. Clytus was scared before Jon opened the letter. Yeah, but I mean, if he recognized the pink wax, I mean, no news is going to be good with all the shit that's going on. And I mean, who also just arrived at the wall? Is it the wolves? Then the Norries? Or the Whomst? Some of the mountain clans are at the wall now. I feel like we got to build a chart about who knows what. Yeah. You're right, MJ. All right. Well, Captain Time was correct. It is after 1 in the morning. We've been at this for over an hour and a half. Because the wall uses spies, JR says it, and Jon notes the watch tracks Stannis' actions. Yeah. Possible. Anyway, I am getting a little dizzy for having talked this long. I don't know how Swifty and Glidus do it. I'm very proud of them. I think Swifty went for like 4 hours one time. But it's all going to be uploaded. For those of you who were not able to tune in at the beginning, it's great to see so many familiar faces. Yeah, I said, Jackie said, aw. I really appreciate all of you who turned up. I'm going to plug my Patreon just a little. If any of you are interested, it's linked in my profile. Oh, Jackie was playing Mario Kart. No. Mario Kart is important. You do that with other people. This video will be on YouTube like in perpetuity. You can come back and watch it whenever you want. And there was a lot. You can hear me clumsily read a Winds chapter unprepared where I mess up many things. But yeah, thank you so much for everybody who showed up to hang out and chat. For those of you who are watching after the fact, I appreciate that as well. And yeah, maybe we can gather all this up and I'll make a proper video essay. I was not really anticipating that. I was more like planning to just shoot the shit with everybody, but I think we might have a real theory here. Anyway, have a good night.